Hey guys, we're back, and this time we're going to be taking a look at Star Trek Alliance. This is a cooperative miniature game based on the Star Trek Attack Wing, and it's one or two players versus an AI through a campaign, and this is the first of a set of, I think, three. Each one can expand to a couple more players, or you can get multiples of the box. I think it plays up to 6, and it's just cool to see something using the themes from, or the mechanics from Attack Wing and reusing it. It's cool to have a solo playable option. Anyway, we're going to get right in and take a look at this. It's great to be back to doing Attack Wing related stuff, since that's kind of what made the channel what it is today. And we'll get right in and take a look. Jokingly, one of the big complaints about the old Attack Wing boxes was that this window was actually a plastic shield that went over the models. So when you opened it, you had a hole in the box right there, and you couldn't store anything in the box unless you taped something over that hole. So kind of found that funny. They actually listened on that. So I've gone through and punched everything out because I couldn't wait to take a look at everything. So everything's a little mess right now because I haven't bothered to put it in storage. Gonna end up putting all the tokens and things in one of these Plano cases like I do with my old Attack Wing stuff. I just haven't gotten around to it with this. So it's kind of a mess in here, but we'll get to it anyway. One thing of note is that they only give you the 2 dials for the Federation ships, for the playable ships, because the Jem'Hadar ships in here are actually NPCs, and they have their own little movement charts, what we'll get to. But that means if you want to use this stuff in Attack Wing, only these 2 ships will be playable, because you won't have the dials for the maneuvers for the other ones. So that was kind of disappointing. They could have thrown a couple extra cardboard dials in there, but we do have a Akira class and an Excelsior class for the Federation. And we'll show their available maneuvers when we get to the cards. I put these bags in here. It didn't come with any kind of bags to sort things out, so that was kind of disappointing, especially with the amount of tokens you get. But first up here we have the terrain tiles, I guess these would be. They're asteroid fields on one side. And then on the flip side, looks like some kind of satellite dish. That's a Cardassian weapon. Another one of those, whatever they are, some kind of satellite. And then we've got a bunch of just your shield tokens. I used to reuse this bag from something else, but a bunch of shield tokens there. Some A through E target locks. Oh no, I see an F in there, so maybe it's A through F. But blue and red sides of both of those. They restarted the leathers, which is kind of funny. Probably the most exciting part for me is a new set of dice. 5 attack, 5 defense, which those are kind of hard to come by nowadays. Then you got a normal D6 and a normal D12 in there. The 12 is used for a round counter, and the 6 is used for the AI for the enemy-controlled ships there. Next we have a damage deck, and these are pretty much the exact same ones that are in Attack Wing. I didn't compare to see if any of the wording's changed or not, but we got some disabled tokens for various upgrades. And then a variety pack of all the different tokens. You got evasive, scan, battle stations. There's a couple cloak tokens in here, which oddly enough I don't think there's anything that cloaks in this expansion. I think that might be everything in there. Just standard tokens. And we have the captain skill tokens. So that's done a little bit differently in this. You're not assigned a actual captain for your ship. You're the captain. So as you level up, your skill goes up, as well as the AI, as their different ranks will have different captain skills. So they have tokens to put on the ships. You also have the faction logos. This one only comes with Federation because there's only Federation ships. Next we have some time lock tokens for new secondary weapons and things. We have our critical and auxiliary power tokens. And the mission tokens. The mission tokens in this actually have numbers on them. I think they go 1 to 12. There was always 12 tokens, but now they're actually numbered. We got our ship bases. There are no named versions of the ship in this. They're always the generic, so it's the same on both sides. So we have our Akira class, which I don't know why they didn't give them the names on here. It's just listed as Federation Starship, but it has the picture in the back there, so we know that's the Akira class. Next we have the Excelsior, which is another Federation Starship, but it's got the Excelsior logo. This has that 90-degree front arc and a 180-degree front arc and a 90-degree rear arc on there, which is nice. Secondary arc. I always called them rear arcs. They've done something a little different here with the AI tokens. You know, I've seen people make clear acrylic overlays that you can put over your normal bases, and they accomplish the same thing. But basically, they've split this up into 8 quadrants. You have your forward, your backward, your sides, and then there's the 4 diagonals. And based on where a player ship is in relation to these, it's going to have a chart, which I'll get to, and it shows you what maneuvers to take, basically what the AI is going to do. Now these ones are double-sided because they don't have a card. You have to use the stat lines that are on these two, which are on the normal ones, but you also have a ship card that you're going to be using for those. But on the back here, you can see they have the normal on this side and the elite on this side. And the elite, I think, just has higher stats. 3232, 3232. Oh, I guess they're the same. They do have the extra slot on here because all of the elite ships do have a special ability. And we'll get to those when we get to the cards. And you have 3 of those bases, 1 for each of the ships. Of course, we have our bag of little extra pegs to go in those bases, which we're going to need a few of those, so I'll grab a couple out. We have a token for a runabout, it looks like. It'd be Yellowstone. And then looks like a damaged or Reliant on the other side, assuming those are used for missions. I haven't actually looked through the scenario book. I tried to keep it a secret so I don't spoil it for myself. I might as well do the models real quick and then we'll get into all the cards. They're a little difficult to get out of here. All of the models are the newer style with the metallic paint. So I wish these were kind of a darker color. They're a little light, but definitely a lot more detail than they had back in the day. Lots of little extra bits painted and separated. You can see it better on some ships than other ones, but those are your Jem'Hadar attack ships. You get 3 of those. I'm not going to do all of them. Next up we have the Federation Akira class. I've always liked these. I think they call it the Thunder Child too, or there was a named version of one, but again, a little bit more highlighting, a little bit more detail on them. And these have that silvery metallic paint, which doesn't really fit. I kind of like the old, the blue-gray. That felt more fitting for the models from what they were in the show. And then finally we have the Excelsior. It's missing a big chunk of paint right there. Not that it really matters. I will say, in the old days, the attack wing bases used to have an arrow on them because one way is forward on them. So when you go to put your ship model on, they can only go one way, whether that's the front or that's the front. I think they go this way, but the little pegs only fit in one way. And maybe I do have it backwards. Yep, I have it backwards. So they don't have those little arrows anymore on them. And then the cards are in here, but before that we're going to go underneath the tray here. And of course we got all kinds of stuff under here. This basically works as a starter set for Attack Wing as well, but like I said, you only got dials for the 2 ships, which is a shame. But we have our rule book here. And 3/4 of this rule book basically is just straight up the rules for Attack Wing. And then they have little sections that they've added in for Alliance, which has like the enemy AI phase. There's anatomy of the AI cards and things like that. The player setup, how you keep track of all that stuff. There's the AI cards. But yeah, pretty much it's the same rules. There's 1 or 2 small changes in there, and a cheat sheet on the back, which is nice. I will say, going into this, I'm going to read through this whole book cover to cover, but I learned to play Attack Wing way back from one of the actual designers, and I've been playing it for years and years, so I did not learn the basics out of the book. I do want to go through and read, because I did notice there are a couple things that have slightly changed, mostly because of mechanics of Alliance, but definitely worth going through. Just from quick flip through though, I do see that it's set up, at least common sense wise, it goes through phase by phase. So they have your setup, then it goes to your players, it'll go you through the planning phase, wherever it is. It's activation phase. So you have the planning phase, and it says the planning phase, this is what happens. Then it goes through the action phase. This is what happens for the players. This is what happens for the AI. Then it goes on to the activation phase. This is what happens for the players. This is what happens for the AI, and so on. So they laid it out very nice, and hopefully it's clear. Like I said, I'm still going to read through just to refresh myself and see if anything major has changed. We have our templates. We have our standard range 3 ruler, which is the size of the box. So if you want a quick reference. But that's our range 3. We have all of our movement tokens. As far as I know, these are all exactly the same as they were in Attack Wing. You have your 6 forward, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 forwards. So those are your straight templates. And we've got a 4, 3, 2, and a 1 bank. And then a 3, 2, and a 1 turn. The turns are a 90-degree turn. The banks are a 45-degree bank. And then the straights are obviously a straight. They also do the come about maneuver. If you're not familiar with Attack Wing or the movement structure of this, there's probably better videos for it. I'm just going through things quick just to show them out. But basically, you're going to put your ship, you're going to take your chosen maneuver, you place it up to the front of your ship, and then you move the ship like that so that it meets up. There's little tabs on the base that hook on there. And that's pretty much how those work. The only other odd one is the come about maneuver, which some ships have, which is the same as doing a straight. You're going to put this tile in front of you. You're going to move to the end, but instead of putting yourself there like you would for a straight forward, you turn around 180 degrees at the end. But there's a little more nuances to it, like if you can't move the whole way, if you put this here and there was another ship here, you're going to stop there instead of going all the way to the end, and so on. that stuff, like I said, you'll find that covered better in other videos. I'm just trying to go over the basics here and tell you what I think of the new Alliance game. So we have our planet token, which I think we've had this planet token before. It's like a gas giant on one side. It's really hard to see. And almost like a moon on the other. Then we have our enemy AI card. And this only comes with the one in this first box set. And it's for the Jem'Hadar deck ship. And up here you can see your stat line. So 3 attack, 2 defense, 3 hull, 2 shield. And then this is basically the script you're going to follow. So during the choose a maneuver, you're going to identify a target, and they have different skills. So most of the time they'll be an attack, which is basically closest enemy target. Then you're going to find the range and direction and roll on the matching table to the right. So over here is your table. And for these 3 here, you just mirror them over on the other side, just left turn instead of right turn. But you figure out where the enemy is. So in this case, if you put one here and one here, you would use those little lines on the base to figure he's in that diagonal quadrant, which is this one here. So this is if they are in close range. This is if they're at long range. So in this case, he's close range. So we would roll a die 6 and we would consult this chart to see what maneuver they take. And then if the maneuver's red, they don't get auxiliary power, they just don't get an action. Then you have to choose your action. Again, based on what the qualifications are met here, you will do the various things. If they don't have anything in range, they're not going to bother taking battle stations and so on. Then we go into the combat, and they always fire primary weapon at nearest target. Oh, and there's your use a blue ring if target's at range 1 or closing at range 2. Use the red ring if they're at target 3 or range 3 or if they're fleeing. So it's kind of interesting AI, and it does make some odd decisions at times, but for the most part it actually feels like another player. They do have a couple special rules for the AI. Normally you're not allowed to cross a planet. If your template goes over it and comes out the other side, that's fine, but you're not allowed to stop on a planet. You would stop before it and so on. The AI can stop on planets. That's a big thing for them. The other thing is that if their maneuver that they would choose would take them into a something that would take damage. So in this case, if you flew into a asteroid field, you would take one, or you have risked the chance of taking damage. They would, instead of doing straightforward, do a bank. In this case, it would miss, and so on. There's a little chart for that in the book, what maneuvers to take in place, and they will try to avoid a collision if possible. That's pretty much it for those. And the last thing in the box here is our campaign book, and they have a little tracker on the back to keep track of your progress. I wish they had come with these on a tear out papers so that you could just write on them. There's resources to download and print these out though, but I don't want to go through too much of this, so maybe the first mission just to show you how it's set up. But you have your components list, the basics on the campaign setup and everything. Like I said, that's all covered in the rule book. They do have charts here to use other Federation ships. So if you have other ships in your attack wing collection, you can use those in the game. And as you level up. And then this here is our first look at a actual mission. So here you have the setup, and somebody mentioned this, I actually heard, I never really thought about it, but I guess coming into this blind, you do not need a map with a grid. The grid is just there to help you reference where to set things up. And these are all done in range 1s. So your range 1 marker, every section on basically 1, 2, and 3, every line on there is one of these grid marks. So it just lets you know that this sets up range 2 in from each of the edges. this little inside grid, which is where you're supposed to set up some of the obstacles for the map. You do not need a grid replay just on these maps here. But just so you know, I saw that brought up and never really crossed my mind that that could be an issue. Down here we have our mission parameters. Tells you the rewards for success, failure, and how to come about those. Over here you have your enemy ship chart. So in this case you look at the setup. So these two are going to be on setup. It also depends on the player count. If you've got two players, you're going to be playing with these. 3 players, you get extra ships. 4 players, you get everything to the left of what you're looking at. So if you're playing 3 player, you're going to get these ships and these ships. 4 player, you're going to get these, and so on. And then they have rounds where things spawn. So in a 2-player game, on round 3, another ship is going to spawn. And then on round 4, another ship is going to spawn. And they all have the command of attack. This is what I was talking about. They may have different objectives there. And then any special rules that apply to the specific mission. And then how the tokens work in the specific mission. And I think I want to go because I think the next page is a different mission. So all the missions are set up like that. The one complaint I had is that there are not very many missions in here. It would have been nice to see more. But because of the community and how awesome they are, there's plenty of player-made missions already out there. And you're perfectly free to make up your own. And with the amount of components and things from the OPs and the little tokens and things that come with various ship expansions, people who have been playing for a while have tons of tokens and things they can do to make their own scenarios up. And you can come up with some pretty cool things. The last thing we need to get into are the cards, and there's a lot of them in this. So our first pack here is the enemy cards, and we've got the Jem'Hadar attack ships. Now each one of these you're going to put a token on this that's going to match up with the token number on the ship itself. And this is where you're going to keep track of damage that's been dealt to it, tokens, and things that you put on, like critical damage will go on these, and that sort of thing. They all have the captain skill up here, and the generic sides are all the same for all of them. On the flip side of these, you have the elites, and each one of the elites is different. So these you're going to shuffle up, and when them this way, you're going to shuffle these up, and you're going to deal these out for each of the ships in the game. If one of them is elite, then you're going to flip it over. And like I said, each one of the abilities are different, so they each get a various kind of bonus on here. So that's going to add some variety to things and change them up a bit as these change from game to game. If you replay a mission, or if you see the same ships, you know, in multiple missions, they're not always going to have the same abilities, and that's kind of cool. I like those. Next up we have are the captain cards, and these are how you're going to keep track of your captain skill as you level up. And I wish again these were on paper, the little tearaway things, but you can easily print these out and write on them, or I actually sleeved the cards. I don't know if you can tell, but sleeve them and then you write on here with a dry erase marker, and you can just wipe it off when you're done. But you have your player name at the top here, your captain skill here. As you go up levels, you're going to put in marks in these. As you mark them across, your captain skill will gradually increase. When you get to these underlined ones, you get to choose one of these down here. You fill in the 2 that you don't choose, adds an extra slot to your ship. Same up here with this underlined one. When you fill in the last bar, so in this case this last 3, past these blocks at the top, you're going to gain a new elite talent, or I can't remember what those are actually called. I think they're called talents. But anyway, you're going to gain a new one of those, and then when you get over here to the last 6, you're going to gain one, and at 9, you're going to gain a 3rd one. And then down here, as you level up, you're going to get points that you can put into these. You fill these boxes in as you basically gain skill with your crew, weapons, and tech. As you fill them in, say you fill up these first 3, that is now going to be a 3. You go by whatever the first unfilled number is. And that's how many points you can spend in those particular things. So if you filled in the first 3 there, and you had a 3 in your crew, you could spend up to 3 points in crew. And still got to abide by these slots available on your ship. Gives you 2 of them in this, 1 for each of the playable ships. Now we get into the actual cards here. And the one thing I'll point out, they did mention that these were compatible with Attack Wing and you can use them, but they all say Alliance on the back. Makes it easier to separate them out. But here's a look at our... Oh, that's shiny with the sleeve. Sorry about that. Here's a look at our maneuver dial for the Akira class. And it's actually a really good ship. I've always liked these. I have a 3 come about in there, 4 straightforward. It's a little slow, topping out at a 4, but extremely maneuverable. The 2 90-degree turns are white. Then you have a 3 in red, but standard green setup on a Federation ship. I think that's pretty much a bare bones like copy and paste for most Federation ships. Then we have our Akira class. Again, there are no named versions of the ship. They're all generic, so you will not have an ability here. 21 points for the base ship. In this game, that does not matter. You don't go by those. They're just the base ship. Then you have your 2 weapon slots and a crew slot. You have a basic, target lock, scan, and battle stations as available options. 4 attack, 2 evade, 5 hull, 2 shield. A little light on the shields, but it's a decent ship. Next we have our Excelsior. You can see it's all quite a bit less maneuverable. It does not have the come about maneuver at all. Even the 2 hard turns are in red. And then you got that standard setup in the middle there. It does have a reverse though, which is kind of nice. So you can go backward too, which is always nice. Gives you a little bit of options for maneuvering there. There we have our Excelsior. You can see you got a little bit more variety and upgrades here. We got a tech slot, a weapon slot, and 2 crew slots. 20 points again, which really isn't used in this version of the game. Then the standard evade, target lock, scan, and battle stations. We got 3 attack, 1 evade, 5 hull, 3 shield. So a little bit better on the shields, a little bit less maneuverable, slightly less firepower, but you do have more options available to you. Next we have our crew upgrades. So we have an operations officer, and they are 2 points. This is a new icon, at least to me. I'm not sure if it was in the more recent Attack Wing stuff, but they always had the star like that, which is a unique. You can only have 1 of those in your entire fleet, meaning all players on an allied team can only have 1 copy of them amongst them. These ones with the X are unique to a ship. So you can have as many of these as you want in your fleet, but they are limited to 1 per ship. And this is at the end phase. You can spend an evade token beside your ship, repair 1 shield. That's kind of nice. And we have a tactical officer. 4 points. When attacking, disable discard, reroll any number of attack dice. Kind of like a free target lock. That's actually pretty nice. Let you basically have that reroll, and then you still have your target lock available to use a secondary weapon or for something else. Next we have a helmsman for 3 points. And during the activation phase, when the ship's maneuver is revealed, disable discard. Increase or decrease the maneuver by 1, even if this results in a maneuver that's not on your maneuver dial. That could be interesting. It also doesn't specify if it changes the color of the maneuver, so that may be something worth looking into, because you could pull a 2 hard turn on the Akira, use him, put that into a 3, which is normally a red maneuver, but since you picked the white, I would think it would stay the same, but that's definitely worth looking into. Next we have a science officer for 3 points. As an action, place 2 scan tokens beside your ship. That one's hit or miss, depends on your playstyle. Scan tokens do remove defense dice, and if you're fighting these Jem'Hadar attack ships, start with 2, so you basically remove their defense, so it definitely has its uses. Next we have Commander, and it's the bearded one, so he's the good one. 5 points. As an action, place a battle station and a evasive token next to the ship. So very similar to one of the other Rikers, I think, that exists out there. He's not named though, but he is unique to a ship. And I think that's why they did these. They're not specifically named people, which is why you can have multiples. Next we have Calculating, which is 1 point. During the activation phase, discard this card, so it's a one-time use. This game round, your captain of the equipped ship is a skill 10. That's definitely situational, but for only a point, it might be worth it. I'm normally, we're not in crew anymore, that's why. These are the elite talents. Normally, I'm not a big fan of one-use things, but a 10 captain skill for 1 point definitely is worth trying. But yeah, these are onto elite talents, not crew. So next we have Evasive Pattern Delta, and again, this has the unique icon, so only one person in your entire fleet can have them. In this, since you're a co-op, you're all in the same fleet. 3 points. During the combat phase, spend a evasive token and discard this card. Perform a maneuver with a speed 2 on this ship's maneuver dial. That could definitely be useful, especially since it's during the combat phase. So you could move yourself in, take a shot, and then move out, I would think. I have to check on the timing on that, but you should be able to. In the least, you can move out of someone's fire arc or something like that if you're not in a position where you want to be. Next, we have Battle Hardened, 4 points. When the ship spends a battle station token, place a time lock token on this card. Place a battle station. Oh, so when you spend a battle station token, you get a battle station token back, and then this gets time locked, so it can only be used every other turn. But that's an interesting combo there. So allows you to use battle station basically on offense and still have it for defense. Next we have Inspiring, 2 points. During the planning phase, target a friendly ship within range 1. Remove an auxiliary power token from behind that ship. That's kind of nice. Help out your allies. Still in elite talents. This time we have Wing Leader. 3 points. When a friendly ship within range is attacking or defending, it's range 1. That ship may re-roll battle stations. That one requires you to keep grouped up pretty good. But rerolls are nice, and it doesn't require a disable or anything. It just automatically works, so that's kind of nice, as long as they're in range of you. We're on to tech upgrades now. We have Impulse Upgrading, 1 point. Treat the ship's 2 straight, 2 banks as if they were green. Very nice. Help you get rid of auxiliary power tokens. Next we have Impulse Efficiency for 2 points. Execute maneuver step. If this ship performs a white maneuver, place 2 time tokens on this card and remove. So it allows you to remove auxiliary power for doing white maneuvers instead of just green. But it's time locked, so you can only use it every other turn. Is it just 1 time lock? I didn't look at that. Place 2 time locks, so you can only use it every 3 turns. Next we have Detection Grid, 3 points. During the combat phase, if there's a scan token beside this ship, opposing ships that are both in range and in this ship's primary fire arc roll 1 fewer defense dice when defending against another friendly ship. And it's a range 3, which is nice. So basically, if you take a scan action, it benefits everybody on your team. Keeps them from needing to scan themselves. They can do something else. Definitely a teamwork focused one there. Next we have Reinforced Shielding, 3 points. Add +2 to the ship's shield value. Saying the Akira had a little bit of a lighter shield on it. That kind of remedies that. Next we have the EMH for 4 points. During the planning phase, place 2 time tokens on this card. Remove 1 disabled token and on a crew upgrade equipped to the ship. Basically you're disabling him for once every 3 rounds to remove a disable from a crewman. Federation's very crew heavy, so that works well with them. Next we have Improved Hull Plating for 2 points. When defending during the modified defense step, convert a critical back into a normal hit. That is nice. I think we've seen that card before. Next we have Subspace Field for 4 points. As an action, discard this card, remove all auxiliary tokens beside all ships. I'm assuming all ships in range because it does have a range on there. I don't know. The way it's worded, it just says remove all tokens beside all ships, but this specifically has a range 1, so I'm thinking it's range 1. Another one to look at. Then we get into our secondary weapons. We have photon torpedoes for 2 points. These are considerably better than the previous versions, I think, in that the attack values are different on the newer ones. So the attack value of this is equal to the ship's primary weapon value plus 1. Has a range 2 to 3, so you can't fire it at point blank, but you're going to want to use your phasers at point blank anyway to get that extra plus 1 anyway. And then as an attack, spend your target lock token, disable this card, and target an opposing ship. This ship can convert all blanks into battle stations. I believe that's what that is. So, multiple decent use there. Fires out a front and rear arc. And not time locked, though. It's just disabled, so you need to spend the action to re-enable it. We have 2 copies of those. We have a dorsal phaser array. This is one of my favorites that have been around for a while. 3 points. As an attack, you can target an opposing ship. The ship may fire this in any direction. So basically it gives you a range 1 to 2, 360-degree attack for 3 damage. Not bad. Or 3 dice, I should say. Next we have overcharged phasers. 3 points. When attacking with the ship's primary weapon, roll +1 attack die. Again, it has the range 2 over here, so I think that it's only useful in the range 2 band. Not positive on those. I'm going to have to double check, because that's a newer mechanic they didn't have on the older cards. Next, we've got full spread for 5 points. After attacking with a torpedo upgrade, discard this card and the torpedo upgrade. Make another attack using the same torpedo upgrade against a different target. Even if that torpedo is disabled, has a time token, or you no longer have a target lock to spend. So basically, you're sacrificing your torpedo to make a second attack with it. Kind of nice, though. I like it, especially if you've got a monster powerful torpedo on there. I see this in attack wing as being broken with like transphasic torpedoes, but yeah. I think they get discarded anyway on use, so it might not work with them. Don't quote me on that. Next we have enhanced targeting for 4 points. When attacking, the ship can re-roll 1 attack die. That one seems kind of steep. Re-roll 1 attack die for 4 points. There's other ways to get re-rolls. Granted, they take actions. This seems, it's automatic, I suppose. It just happens when you attack, but I don't know, that one seems a bit expensive to me. And then quantum torpedoes. These are the one I was thinking of. There was some kind of transphasic, maybe it was. I had the 10 attack, but quantum torpedoes here is I think that's a 6. I'm looking through the camera. Yeah, 6 points. As an attack, spend the target lock token, disable this card, target an opposing ship. If the defending ship is hit, add 1 damage. So it's a range 2 to 3, can't fire it at point blank. Uses 5 dice. And if any of those are hits, basically you add an extra hit to it. Front or rear arc. Pretty much good all around. Again, not a time lock, a disable. I thought they switched all these to time lock in the newer stuff, but I guess not. Anyway, that's a look at everything that comes inside the Star Trek Alliance base box here. You got your 2 Federation ships, your 3 Jem'Hadar ships, tokens, lots and lots of tokens. The good thing, like I said, my biggest thing that I was excited by was a full new set of dice, attack and defense, full new sets of templates, new damage deck. So basically, it's everything you need for a starter set right in there, and the rule book does contain most of the rules for attack wing in there, and then the new Alliance stuff on top of that. So really excited that it gives new players a new chance to get into the game, because the attack wing starter sets are impossible to come by these days, and the scenario campaign thing on top of it's just icing on the cake, and I can't wait to get stuck in and give those a try. Just wish there were more of them in the book. But anyway, I'm going to get all this packed back up, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on what I think of Star Trek Alliance. Okay, so everything gone through, what do I think of Star Trek Alliance? I really like that they've added to the Attack Wing franchise. I've always been a fan of that. And the fact that this brings it back, offers a co op and a solo way to play, is definitely cool. I like the systems they use, the leveling up. I actually was working on something myself, kind of similar to these, and then I had heard about the X-wing version, which was actually made by the same guy who made the X-wing version, and I kind of stopped working on it. But I was working on a way to basically make it into an RPG where you leveled up and raised a captain, and that's what this does. So it's definitely cool in that respect. Very disappointed. I think there's only five, maybe six missions in the book. I wish it was a lot longer than that in the campaign. There are expansions to it that add on to it, and there's plenty of player made content out there, so there's that to it, but the base game itself feels like it should have been more. I would have expected, 10, 15 missions in there, but six is a little light for what it is, but like I said, there's so many other resources to get missions. That's not really an issue. Overall, though, the game itself is great. The subtle changes they made to the system to make it work with this are easy to understand. So if you're a fan of the old game, you're not going to have too much trouble picking it up. If you're new to it, everything looks like it's explained out pretty good. Like I said, I read through the rule book, but again, I did not learn how to play from this rule book, just the differences between this and Attack Wing, which there are a few. But overall, I think it's a great addition to the game. Hopefully, it brings back interest to Attack Wing, and WizKids will put it back into production because I really enjoy the game. I actually like it better than X Wing. The problem is it's so hard to come by, and it's so hard to get new players in because there's no starter kits and things availability is crazy. So hopefully, this will help. Couple minor issues: the fact that they don't come with dials for the Jem'Hadar ships. So while you can use the Federation ships in your games of Attack Wing, you cannot use the Beetles because there's no dials for them. Which that'd be a really simple thing for them to add. It seems kind of weird that they didn't put those in. I guess then they would have had to add a couple captain's cards and ship cards and things too. So it does add up. So I guess it makes sense, but it's just a shame those weren't included. Overall, though, I had a lot of fun with the game, and can't wait to get into the part two, which I have. It's actually sitting off to the side here. We're going to get back into those. I'm going to be doing a video on that soon. And hopefully there's more missions in that, expand the campaign out. In the meantime, we'll definitely be checking out some of the fan-made ones too. There's a ton of them you can find on BGG. So look them up and give it a try. That's going to wrap it up for our look at Star Trek Alliance, the Dominion War campaign. This is part one, and hope it helps you decide if it is something worth trying to find for yourself. I think if you're a fan of Attack Wing, you're going to enjoy this. The one drawback is that the base game only supports Federation. The expansions do add other factions in, but like one of my friends loves the Dominion, and the Dominion are always the bad guys in this, so that's kind of a downside to it. But there's nothing preventing you, I'm sure, from playing Dominion as a good guys. Maybe you're an offshoot Otis followers or something, but the campaign's not really designed for that. But in the end, it's your game. You can do what you want. I've seen a lot of people talking about bringing Attack Wing upgrades and ships into this. In the back of the book, there is a little chart to add specific ship types. So we haven't really messed with that stuff yet, but definitely look into that. Though some of the Attack Wing upgrades, if you bring them into this game, are kind of unbalanced, especially pretty much anything that was meta or powerful in Attack Wing will be overpowerful in this. It's pretty balanced on its own. But once you start introducing that other stuff, it may mess with things. So keep that in mind. Nothing stopping you from doing so, but it may make the game easier for you. So maybe bump it up a player level. That's something we want to try at some point because they have the different difficulty levels based on the number of players. maybe bump it up as if there was an extra player or two, and then use some of those other upgrades and ships and things and see how that works out. But that's something we're definitely going to try. Something you can do in your own games too. But as I said, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Star Trek Alliance. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.